Welcome to Other Perspectives. This program aims to provide new perspectives on and insights into issues relevant to our community. With the loss of our daily local newspaper, it is more important than ever that we hear from those knowledgeable about issues and events happening in Ann Arbor. To discuss City Council campaigns, politics, and related issues, I am pleased to have a former mayor and former City Councilwoman. Mayor Ingrid Sheldon, a lifelong resident of Ann Arbor, served as mayor for 4 terms, 1993 to 2000, and on City Council from 1988 to 1992. During her service, the Commission for Increasing Safety for Women and the Commission for Art in Public Places were established. She continues to be active in the community through her involvement in nonprofit and service organizations. Jane Lumm has been a resident of Ann Arbor for more than 3 decades, a City Council member for 3 terms, 1993 to 1998. She too continues to serve Ann Arbor in organizations as diverse as the Street Art Fair, Affordable Housing, Steering Committee, and Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Washtenaw County. Welcome. So glad to have you here. Let's start with a little bit of history. So you both are Republicans, and you were when you were serving, and you both served on bipartisan council, and Mayor Sheldon, you were a minority party mayor. In 1992, the citizens voted to change city elections from April to November. That was in effect for 1994 election. How do you think this change impacted city politics?
Well, I think, and I know, and I believe truly that it was meant to always have a Democratic council majority. We take our politics very, very seriously here in Ann Arbor, those of us that have been here for quite a while. And when you vote in the November elections, you're voting with all the other offices, the president, the governor, especially on the even years. And then you just get a higher percentage of voter turnout because of people showing up for those other offices. When the elections were in the spring, you had the dedicated hardcore people that really were interested in local politics, were willing to educate themselves about the local issues. They came out to vote. They would support candidates that reflected their view of what a local government should look like. Local government issues are different than national policy issues, and I think how we maybe look at a pothole, you don't necessarily have to put a Republican or a Democratic tag on that. We want good services, we want consistent services, we want services that are fiscally responsible. We could, in the past, we could devote our attention as a community to those issues when it was a spring election. With a fall election, it's kind of, well, do they ever surface? Well, we have no newspaper for them to surface in anymore. But we have to compete for the voters' attention with all the national and state politics that are involved. So with the fact that we're predominantly Democrat, we're probably always going to be seeing a Democratic council.
Okay. Jane, your view?
Well, I share
Ingrid's.
Yeah, Ingrid's,
yes.
Ingrid's view.
Yes.
And we lived through this change together. We were both initially elected. Ingrid was first elected mayor. It was in 1993 when I was first elected to council, and then we ran again in '94 because now our elections were moved to the fall. And it was significantly more difficult, particularly in these even years when you have gubernatorial and presidential elections that occupy the voters' thinking. And our local issues tend to get lost in the fray. They really do. And I also think one of the sort of unforeseen results of moving these elections to the fall is that the pool of elected officials is determined by a very small group of people, essentially. The voter turnout in our primaries ranges from the 5 to 10% range of our registered voters. In the fall, particularly in major November elections, again, gubernatorial, presidential years, the voter turnout in Ann Arbor hovers around 60%. So that's really unfortunate, I think. And again, our local issues are lost. People, because of the partisan tag, I think people tend to, well, A, they're discouraged to run because this town is, you know, basically 75-25, 80-20 Democratic. And so, and the votes in November have reflected that since 2002, this 75-25, 80-20 split. So again, I don't think people get the diversity that they were seeing prior to this shift.
So you seem to imply that, but maybe there's some benefit to a bipartisan council. Are there benefits to a bipartisan council?
I have always thought so, that you can have that natural pull and tug. We don't all think the same thing. If you get involved in politics, I think, with an open mind, where you are there to serve your community. Yes, you're going to have a certain personal political bent or how you're going to view issues, but if you leave yourself open for good, honest discussion and debate, that can occur when you've got the different parties, the two parties represented at the council table. It's very unusual to have partisan elections in municipalities.
Yes.
I think there are only 5 communities in the state of Michigan that have partisan races. But in Ann Arbor, because of our history, it has been that way, the opening up discussion. I think now with our 100% Democratic council, we do see some divisions and some splits, and I think more of that is going to occur as time goes by, because there is no opportunity for debate unless you do run as a Democrat and you run in a primary. Even independents will not be able to secure enough of voter interest to win. So I think we're going to evolve into different segments of the council members and their debate and discussion, but it's still it's going to be very hard to break those political ties that tie a partisanship.
Well, that, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and when Ingrid was mayor and I served on council, issues were discussed openly, and you know, sometimes discussions were heated and even a little confrontational, but I think that was a good thing, and because issues and alternatives were discussed publicly and in the public view, and the Ann Arbor News would cover our discussions. I think they did a fair and accurate job, but one thing that bothered me was the Ann Arbor News' oftentimes condemnation of the bickering at the council table, and you know, and I think one person's bickering is another person's honest, open, thoughtful debate. And we were also criticized for having longer meetings. And yes, that's true. They were tended to be longer. But I think that was simply the result of an open, public discussion of the issues. And I think it was because you had a mix of views there. And you know, the nuances of an issue, the differences weren't discussed. But honestly, genuine disagreements, but again, it was all about open debate and discussion that was healthy, and it was great for the community. I think it really serves the best interests, and you end up with the optimum result and decisions at the end of the day, I think, with that kind of debate.
Right.